move that out of your way. She has Bill?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Cynthia Austin. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Board, and I would like to welcome each of you to today's board meeting. I'd like to ask that you take a copy of our agenda. It will help you to follow along in our meeting. Also, I'd like to ask that you silence your phone, and if you are speaking today, please make sure to fill out a public comment card. They're provided for you at the back of the room. Thank you. I'd like to ask that we have a time of reflection, if we could all just take a moment and have a moment of silence. Thank you. I'd like to ask if Director Albee would direct us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we took our moment of reflection, I hope that each of you took a moment to pray for our country, to pray for the events that transpired on yesterday in Boston, for the many Americans who were involved, and that we find some quick answers and, more importantly, some health and healing for the families involved. I'd like to, at this time, recognize our newest board member, Mr. Wyman Winbush, is with us today. If you just stand and be recognized. I understand that you made it through the hard part. You made it through rules, so we welcome you. We're glad you're here with us today and look forward to you sitting on this side of the table next time.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Virginia.
I'd like to ask if I could have a member to make a motion and a second for the adoption of the agenda.
So move. Second.
It's been moved in second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, your motion has passed. The agenda has been adopted. May we also, let's see, yes, the safety briefing. Let's have that next with Mr. Kierson.
All right. In the case of emergency and need to evacuate the building, we will be using a stairwell located to the left of the elevators. As you're ascending the stairs, please hold on to the handrails, and please remember there are 160 steps. I did count them this morning.
Are you sure?
Fire extinguishers are also located to the left of the elevators, and it should be used to clear an exit. We are not firefighters, so please do not attempt to be one. Leave that to the professionals. Please be aware of any hazards in the room. These are typically tripling hazards, either chairs, cords, or other people. We do have plenty of linemen here today, so I'm sure they're going to escort the ladies with high heels down that need it. Once we exit the building, we'll be assembling at the corner of Main Street and Ashley Street, which is the church parking lot. Your safety buddy is the person to your right. Let that person be aware of any medical conditions that might be important in case EMTs arrive. Please raise your hand if you're certified and willing to perform CPR. So we do have a couple. That's always a good thing. In the event of emergency, Winona Kendrick will be calling security at section 6200. She's in the back of the room. And Melissa Charleroy will be calling 911. Thank you, Melissa. Restrooms are located to the right of the elevators. Please put your cell phones on silent, and this concludes the safety briefing.
Thank you, sir.
So good morning. My name is Bill Kierson. I work in the Technology Services Department. I am the Director of Information Security, and I report to the Chief Information Officer, Winona Kendrick. I've been working at JEA for 12 years, including my contractor and temp time, and I'm glad to say I have 8 years on the books in the pension program. I'm responsible for developing, coordinating, implementing policy standards and procedures to safeguard JEA's information systems and data, and to ensure that the information security policies align with JEA standard business practices and its strategy. This requires coordinating efforts with technology services, JEA business groups, physical security, and the compliance group to form a cohesive approach to meet these security needs. I'm also a control owner in our critical infrastructure protection program, which puts me on the operational side, so I have a lot of paperwork to do throughout the day. I also graduated from the University of Florida. Go Gators! Right, it always works, so. with a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. I also have my professional engineering license and also have my CISSP certification, which is a requirement for my current position. I'm also studying for the Certified Ethical Hacker exam, which since it's certified, that means I'm one of the good guys, so don't be worried about that. So, I've been married for 14 years to my high school sweetheart, Wanda. We had a little bit of gap between there. We fell out, but got back together. We have 2 boys, Nicholas, who is 10, and I have a young son, Alexander, who is 5, but unfortunately thinks he's 10, and that causes a lot of headache, a lot of bumps and bruises. So, I've also been a mentor for the First Stanton Robotics Club, which is a program that JEA sponsors for 13 years, and I would personally like to thank everyone for supporting that program through the years. That's a great thing. With all the problems you hear in schools today, it's just nice to see the good part of it. And I wish that we would actually have more of that in the media. That would be really great. So currently my hobbies and stuff are really the same stuff I do at home. I love computers. I love hacking, figuring out how things work, not in a bad way. I do love robotics control systems. I've been working on the home automation system for a long time. I'm not going to tell you the number of years. And other than that, I just love just normal stuff like internet, biking, fishing, and golfing when the weather permits. So that's it for me. So now I'd like to introduce Steven Sellers.
Thank you, sir. As you're coming to the podium, I just want to say, just for the benefit of the audience, that maybe a year or so, 2 years ago, the board asked to have a little more interactive experience with some of our staff. And this process of meeting you each month and getting to know you and hearing about you and your lives and your children has been extremely rewarding for us. It helps us to just feel a little bit closer to each of you and knowing what you do. So I wanted to mention that because I believe it was an idea of my colleague, was it you or me that wanted to start doing that?
It was both of us.
It was both of us. Well,
Such the different collaboration.
it has been, he is such a diplomat. It has been a rewarding experience, and I enjoy it every month. So,
Well, thank you. I'm Steven Selders. I'm the Director of the Technology Services Project Management Office, and in that position I report to Winyoni Kendrick, like Bill. And Bill, thank you for the introduction. I've been at JEA for 5 years as a regular employee and had an additional 3 years before that as a contractor. So I've been here since about 2004, came in. My current position, I've only been in Director of IT Project Management for about 6 months. And so I'm still kind of learning on the job, but am now getting used to it. In that capacity, I really have 2 facets. One is making sure internally that my team of project managers continues to deliver value, to meet business needs, and very importantly, to control costs when we deliver projects and meet these business needs. And secondly, to be a liaison externally for the TPC, which is our Technology Projects Committee, and to make sure that from an executive sponsor level, our executives are engaged, they're informed, and they're involved in the appropriate level of decisions for our project portfolios. Before I was the Director of Project Management, I was the Manager of ERP Systems. And in our hierarchy, the Manager of ERP Systems is responsible for our Oracle ERP and JEA.com, which are both, of course, critical systems for JEA. One runs the payroll and the other is the door to the outside, so both very critical. And previous to that, I was a Senior Project Manager within the PMO that I'm now the Director of. So I kind of came back home when I got this position. I am not originally from Jacksonville. I'm actually not a UF graduate, I'm sorry. I got my master's degree at the University of Colorado. Go Buffs! And then a bachelor's degree in Northern Colorado. And right now I'm a certified PMP. It's a project management professional. So like Bill, I married my high school sweetheart. We've been married for 18 years and have a 17-year-old son, so you guys can do the math there. Also have a preteen daughter who thinks she's a teenager, and they're both right now in Duval County schools. We spend a lot of time together as a family and have loved being in Florida for the last 7 years. Still exploring new state parks, new beaches, and of course the greater Orlando area, which my daughter loves, but my son has had about enough of at 17 years old. So I'm just happy to be here, and thanks for the opportunity.
thank you. Enjoyed hearing from you. I share your pain. I have a 17-year-old as well, so good luck. Next, we move to the portion of our agenda for presentations and comments. We will first hear from Rashandia Mitchell and Meredith Bass. Are they here? Good morning.
Good morning. Again, I'm Rashandia Mitchell. I'm the Benefits and Wellness Specialist here at JEA, and I'm very pleased to introduce our special guest here with the American Heart Association. Mike Vatter is the local Heart Walk Director, and Meredith Bass is the Senior Heart Walk Director, here to present us with the 2013 Fit Friendly Worksite Wellness Awards. So Mike and Meredith.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for, Thank you so much for having us this morning. My name is Mike Batter, and I am the, as Rashandia said, the Heart Walk Director here in First Coast, and Meredith Bass is the Senior Heart Walk Director for the First Coast office of the American Heart Association. It is truly an honor this morning to announce that JEA has been recognized as a fit-friendly work site here on the First Coast. For those of you not familiar with the Fit Friendly Worksite Recognition Program, it is a level of acknowledgement on behalf of the American Heart Association's My Heart, My Life initiative. The initiative is a recognition program, and as a partner in the fight against heart disease, which is our nation's #1 killer, killing more Americans each year than cancer, all forms of cancer combined, JEA will use this award as a catalyst to make sure that the health and wellness of their employees is a priority. Your worksite has received the prestigious Platinum Award, the American Heart Association's pinnacle of corporate wellness. As a platinum level worksite, you have demonstrated that you offer your employees physical activity and support for physical activity at the worksite. You've increased the number of healthy eating options available to your employees. You promote a wellness culture here at your worksite. You embrace at least 9 of the criteria as outlined by the American Heart Association in the areas of physical activity, nutrition, and culture. In addition, you have demonstrated specific, quantifiable, and measurable outcomes related to workplace wellness. As a platinum fit-friendly worksite, you are trailblazers who have adopted the spirit of the initiative and of the vision to try improving the health and wellness of your employees and of your overall worksite. So I would like to thank Rashandia Mitchell for heading our application process, as well as Mr. Paul McElroy for his support in the process. Congratulations to all of you, and I have the award here. The 2013 Fit Friendly Platinum Award.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Yes.
I'd just like to thank all of the members of our staff who make these type of awards happen. Of course, the board is extremely proud of the awards you receive, but it's to you that we owe the debt, because you do the work and you participate in the programs that make this happen. So again, congratulations to you on another well-deserved award. Next, we'll hear from the, Ricky Kirsten and Chris Richardson. Are you here, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please come and talk to us about the rodeo.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. My name is Ricky Erickson. I'm the Director of Transmission and Distribution Maintenance here at JEA. I would like to thank the board for this opportunity to recognize our linemen who competed in our APPA 2013 Public Power Line Workers Competition in Kissimmee, Florida, which took place on Saturday, March 23rd. These employees will also be representing JEA in the Florida Municipal Electric Association Line Workers Competition held this Saturday here in downtown Jacksonville on April 20th. So they'll be competing again here shortly. Public power entities from across the nation participated in this competition. We have 59 teams across the nation, 76 apprentices from all over the nation, far away California, Washington, Colorado, Ohio, North Carolina, of course, Florida. And they all competed in 5 journeyman events and 5 apprentice events. 4 JEA teams, 3 from the T&D maintenance area and 1 from electric service response, competed in the journeyman events, along with 4 apprentices. I am proud to report that all of our employees just were exemplary in their competition and their behavior and their performance. It was exemplary. Without further ado, though, I'd like to introduce Chris Richardson to you. He's a construction maintenance foreman in our T&D area. Chris, along with Tracy Haas, organized the teams and helped facilitate the events. So without further ado, turn it over to Chris.
Thank you, Ricky. Ricky stole my thunder. I got Ricky's.
Thank you.
On the board, I got one for the newest board member also, and one of those for Mr. Ross, so I'm gonna have to have him come up and fight for it.
Thank you.
My name is Chris Richardson. I'm about a 24-year, I guess, veteran of JEA. I started in '89. I've got 3 kids, 2 daughters and a son, and I've got 2 granddaughters. I'm proud to say that this company has fed me about most of my life, and between my dad and I, we've earned it. It's really, between the weather and the storms and everything, we go out, and it really is, it's never a dull moment. The guys you're looking at in the back of this room pretty much complete most of our teams. These guys come out and sweat on their own time a lot of times. We compete on Saturdays. They're really here for the company, honestly. I mean, we like the individual events, and doing well on your own is fun and it's good, but bringing the trophies home to JEA is what it's all about. I'd like to recognize each one of them. I'd like to start with Team 1 will be Robert Hess, Alan Singley, and Brian Gregg, I'm sorry. That would be our Team 1. They came in 3rd place overall at the APPA Rodeo. I'd like to have them stand. And they also came in 1st place in the overall on the cross arm event, which is a pretty big event. So.
Congratulations.
Our troubleshooter team in the back, which consisted of JJ Sabo, Dan, I'm sorry, Dan Prescott, I know like my own, and Larry Sparks would be our 2nd team. It's actually our troubleshooters team. They came in 2nd overall in the Hurt Man Rescue, which is a really big thing. We've noticed that since we started doing Hurt Man Rescue, that we do vertical Hurt Man Rescue, that the JEA teams tend to gravitate toward it, and we really took off and done real well at this. The 3rd team would be Lonnie Barr, Tommy Hayes, and in the back, that's Clay Cook. They came in 3rd place overall in the Journeyman Hurt.
Can we have them stand, please?
I would like to have them stand, yeah, if they could all stand. Like I said.
Congratulations to each of you. Thank you for making us look good and bringing those trophies home. We appreciate that.
The sweat and energy these guys put into this, like I say, it takes a lot out of it. We get home at night, we talk about how good we sleep at night. We work during the day, but when you're really focused on what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, it makes a difference. We'd also like to invite y'all down to the Prudential Drive. I want to say it's 1700 block of Prudential Drive, the Duval County School Board Building, Saturday at 8 o'clock. Bring your umbrellas and your chairs, mostly for the sun because there's going to be no rain. And just come watch us and enjoy yourself. You'll get to see a bunch of people putting out good business. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed one of my players. Gary Griffin, he came in 2nd place in the Apprentice Hurt Man. I'm sorry, you're sitting behind the wall. I didn't see you there. Which, like I say again, Hurt Man. These guys, if I get
Let us see you. Stand up, please. There you are. Congratulations.
Thank you very much for having us. We appreciate all you do for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope you have a great event, and hopefully you'll see some of us at your event Saturday evening. We look forward to it. Thank you. Next, we have comments from the public. Do we have any comment cards? Is there anyone here from the public that would like to address the board at this time? This is the only opportunity you'll have to speak to us. Seeing none, then we'll move to the next item, which is one of my favorite agenda items, comments from our council liaison. Councilman Jost?
Don't have any.
That's unusual. Well, it's just good to see you. How are you? I'm doing well, sir. Glad to see you.
Paid all my taxes yesterday, so I'm a little.
You're a little, you're walking a little lighter today. Well,
Know
good.
the feeling.
We appreciate you being here. Next, we move into the 3rd section of our agenda. We have items for board consideration. We'll begin with the first 2 items that require action. If I could, I'd like to ask for approval of the board minutes with revisions and amendments of the March 19th, 2013 meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and properly second. Are there any comments? Hearing none. All in favor indicate by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your action, you've approved the board minutes of March 2013. Next, we move to the JEA fiscal year 2012 annual disclosure report. This is an action item. Is there a motion?
So moved, yes.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your action, you have approved the FY 2012 Annual Disclosure Report. Next, we move a series of items, 3 through 8. They're really for information, so is there any question or comment from the board?
Mr. Chairman, yes, Mrs. Chair, I have a board comment. I'd like to see item 3 and 4, sole source and emergency and real estate acquisition, at some point have some discussion and dialogue on that. I know it's a quarterly report, but I'd like to have some discussion at some point.
I agree with you. There were a couple of issues on that report. Are we deferring it then?
No, I have no problem with this. I'm just saying for future, I'd like to have some discussion.
Okay, at maybe a workshop or when we All right.
I'll let you and the
Okay.
chair decide that.
Is there any other comment regarding the items 3 through 8? Hearing none, we'll move on to strategic discussion and other items for action. First, we have the bi-monthly financial update from our new controller. Good morning. Ms. Nelson, welcome.
Thank you.
Congratulations, ma'am, on your new appointment.
Thank you. Good morning. I will be reviewing the financial summary for the period ending March 31st, 2013. So if you look at our key financial metrics, overall, all of the key financial metrics are trending on or above target. If you look at the electric system, the debt service coverage is forecasted to be 2.3 times, and it's within our target. The days cash on hand, it's currently at 132 days. However, it's forecasted to be 110 days at year end, which take into effect the $37 million fuel credit. The debt to asset ratio is forecasted to be 77%. On the water and sewer system, the debt service coverage is forecasted to be 2.3 times. Cash on hand is forecasted to be 136 days, which is slightly above the target. However, operating cash makes up only about 25 days of that amount. The debt to asset ratio is currently at 61%, but we are forecasting that the ratio will dip down to 59% by the end of the year.
May I ask a question? What are our ultimate debt-to-asset targets for both the electric and water and sewer systems? Do we have an ultimate target on those?
Well, there you see a range on the targets.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that's an interim range, but I know we want to get down to a certain level.
Well, we want to stay within that range in terms of, for the debt service coverage. The debt to asset is the number that we need to work down probably below that 65%.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that probably below 60, but once we get to 60, I think we'll be in good balance with market metrics.
And the debt, and for the water and sewer
Water is
system?
closer to 50%.
Okay.
Yes.
If we look at electric system unit sales, for March, unit sales were up 5.4% above prior year and 2.2% on a year-to-date basis. And the primary driver for the increase is weather. For example, for the month of March, it was a lot cooler than normal. We had 304 heating degree days compared to 26 that we had in the previous March. You can see the difference in the weather. On a year-to-date basis, degree days are 23.5% higher than the prior year. However, if you look at degree days looking at the 30-year average, we're still about 7% below the 30-year average, so still warm weather. The number of customers increased slightly, about 0.87%. Here, on the unit sales for the electric system, we're forecasting that unit sales are going to be about 3.4% higher than they were in the prior year, yet we're going to be about 4.2% below what we have in the budget. The FY13 fuel costs continue to be favorable compared to the budget, which support the $37 million fuel rate credit customers began receiving in April. The fuel reserve is at 24% currently, and we're forecasting that to be 17% at the end of the year, which would include that $37 million fuel rate credit. If you look at the base side, non-fuel-based revenues, we're forecasting that to be $32 million less than what was in the budget. And if the FY13 unit sales continue to be lower than the budget, expenses have been identified to mitigate the budget shortfall in base revenues. Of that $32 million, $18 million of that savings are expected to come from O&M expense savings. We're projecting to transfer $128.4 million to the capital fund to fund the pay-go. It's a little lower than the budget by $2.3 million, and that's due to lower R&R requirements because of lower sales. But on the flip side, the capital expenditures, we're forecasting that to be $140.1 million, and that's approximately $19 million lower than what was in the budget. So everything is good on the electric system. We turn to the water system. March unit sales were 12.7% below prior year, and still on a year-to-date basis, we are 6.7% below unit sales on a year-to-date basis. Sales have been lower in all classes. We are seeing customer growth. The number of customers increased approximately 1.1%. One additional note to highlight is that we are seeing an increase in capacity fees for new meter payments from builders, indicating that we will eventually see a potential increase in our new customer growth in the water and sewer system. On the water and sewer system, year-to-date unit sales, we're forecasting sales to be 3.2% below prior year, and when we look at the budget, 2.4% below what's in the budget. For sewer unit sales, we're forecasting unit sales to be 2.4% below prior year and 1.5% below the budget. Sales revenue are forecasted to be 1% above prior year and slightly below what we have in the budget. Also want to point out that those capacity fees are forecasted to be about $4 million above what we have in the budget due to the increase in meter payments by builders, as I mentioned before, so we are seeing that. O&M expenses are forecasted to be $2.6 million below the budget, and we are projecting to transfer $122.4 million to the capital funds to support the pay-go, and the capital expenditures are projected to be $120.9 million, and that's $11 million below what was in the budget. If we turn to look at the combined debt outstanding, the combined debt outstanding declined $272 million from September 2012. So the total debt outstanding at March 31st was approximately $5.7 billion. The electric system had $3.7 billion of that. And the variable debt is $837 million, but that's down from $1.1 billion. That's because in February, $66 million of unhedged variable rate bonds and $217 million of hedged variable rate bonds was refunded to fixed rate bonds. On the water and sewer system, the debt outstanding is $1.9 million. The variable rate portion of that is $400 million, which $124 has been synthetically swapped to fix. And on the district energy system, the debt outstanding is $44 million, which is currently all variable. However, in February, the board authorized management to price and execute a DES rate refunding transaction, which is expected to be in the June timeframe. So we will fix all of that debt out to fix. can look at the combined debt outstanding weighted average interest rate. For all the systems, it's 3.9%, and it's below the budgeted rate of 4.3%. Which is good. The next item is the variable rate risk analysis. As discussed earlier, in February, we did refund variable rate debt bonds to fix with the associated interest rate swaps. And this resulted in a 35% decrease in swap counterparty exposure and an additional 25% in liquidity facility exposure. Also, based on statements we've been hearing from the Federal Reserve, low interest rates are expected to continue as long as unemployment remains above 6.5%. So we're not anticipating interest rates to rise significantly over the next year or so. We do have a variable rate reserve of $81 million to mitigate higher interest rates if they become available. The next schedule just shows our bond ratings. I'd like to point out that in fiscal year 13, the electric system did receive an upgrade from Fitch on our ratings from a AA- to a AA. And lastly, I just want to highlight the combined investments outstanding. The total investment portfolio at March 31st was approximately $1.4 billion. Our current long-term yields, though, are lower than they were in the prior year. The 10-year Treasury at March 31st, 2013 was 1.85%, and last March they were in the range of 2.21%. And the 30-year Treasury is currently at 3.10%, and last year the rate was about 3.34%. Is there any questions from?
Just as a point of clarification, I know that the total portfolio is at 1.37 billion, correct?
That's a bit, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? Thank you for your report. We'll move next to a presentation on employee volunteerism from the Chief of Information, Ms. Kendrick. Good morning.
Good morning.
Before you do that, Ms. Kendrick, I know you have some things to share with us. Could you just give us a brief update and overview of our JEA.com, our Door to the JEA project, and how it's coming?
Absolutely. We've had a couple of opportunities related to our JEA.com website in the last couple of months. However, since Paul McEvoy has been our CEO, he's ensured we understand that our customers are at the center of everything we're doing. So we're reconfiguring our JEA website to ensure that's the case and we have high availability. And fortunately, he's also brought on a Chief Customer Officer. I think you're going to be meeting her later, Ms. Monica Whiting. She's awesome from Colorado Springs, and she's helping us to ensure that we have the right focus on our customers moving forward.
Okay, thank you. We're excited about JEA.com. We can keep it online. We'll be really happy. Thank you.
Again, good morning, Vice Chair Austin and board members. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for both individually and collectively everything you do to support this community and the volunteering that you do, particularly serving on the JEA board. At JEA, we really don't spend a lot of time talking about everything we do in this community. It's really just what we do, improve the quality of life in the community we serve. We're not looking for any bragging rights. However, we really are proud of this community, and therefore if we can encourage just one person to be volunteer in this community, then we're willing to brag, at least a little bit. Almost on day one, as Paul McEvoy became the CEO of JEA, he kicked off 6 customer satisfaction teams and gave me the honor of supporting one of those teams. That's the Community Champions. Our goals were simple. That was to double the number of volunteers involved in JEA sponsor events, and showcase just one JEA employee, our community champions, on a monthly basis who are really very active in the community. And if you look on the screen, you see Miss April, Jamie Cook. Jamie Cook is very active in our community. Our results have been spectacular. We've identified that over 80% of JEA is actively involved in our community. We were able to sign up over 300 JEA employees for JEA community events. In my career at JEA employees have contributed more than $6.5 million to United Way and $500,000 to community health charities. Wow. We've also identified over 60 community champions that we plan on showcasing on a monthly basis, and yes, that makes about 5 years worth of JEA employees we'd like to showcase. But our work really is not done, and so you heard earlier, we really would like to have you to join us at the Lineman's Rodeo on Saturday, April the 20th. We'd also like you to join us for the Haberjacks Blitz that we're having on June the 12th and 13th. Also look out for JEA volunteers in our community. And lastly, second to last, look out for Miss May, her name is Katie Rourke, and she will be focusing on everything that she does in the community. Look out for Miss or possibly Mr. June. I'm thinking maybe we have a clue for the couple of people that you see there that have been involved in our American Association for Black in Energy, a Saturday Blitz, as we focus in on everything they do in our community, the community that we live, work, and play in. And lastly, Miss Austin, what I'd like to do is to introduce you to the awesome team that we have involved in this activity. We call ourselves the Community Champions, and I've invited the leads to be here today. I think the actual team is actually over 17 people, but with the room we have here, we weren't able to invite them all. So I'm going to ask them to stand today. Behind me, I have my black belts. Glenn Johnson, and he's really been orchestrating this and a number of projects that we have to come. And then in front we have Mr. Brian Pippin. As you know, Brian is a star, and you already know him. He has his own television show. And he's going to be leading 2 of our initiatives. He's just finished one, which focuses on showcasing the 5 years of JEA employees that we're going to be showcasing, and now he's working on with Jane on the branding of our volunteers so that when you're in the community you can see them. In the back you have Brian Novak. Brian has been responsible for awards and recognition, and so he's been working on identifying a awards and recognition program, which we believe is unique, and Mr. McElroy had an opportunity to identify him, and the program is a rewards program similar to the rewards you'd get if you were part of an airline club. And then lastly but not least, we have Miss Vonsia Fuller, and Miss Fuller has the responsibility of taking this initiative and moving it forward when we get to step back. Unfortunately, one of our team leads is not with us today because of a personal opportunity in his family, and that's Mr. Gregory Owens. Many of you know Gregory, and hopefully you have an opportunity to thank him for everything he's done to support this program. With that, Vice Chair Austin, anything for us?
Well, I'm so pleased that you're telling the JEA story, and as you get assigned to Mr. and Mrs. whomever, I hope we're going to spend time with our young people as well in the community.
Yes, and I think that you had an opportunity to talk to Mr. Kearson earlier, who spends a lot of time with our young people in the community, weekends, nights. That's what he does.
Yeah. I agree with you, Director. We definitely need to tell our good news story. I think from the moment I came to JEA, I have continued to say that, and I am so excited about this program. I want to thank those of you who are here that are taking the leadership initiative to make sure that we continue to do the good work we do. But I want to ask that we do a little bit more for our monthly volunteer people that we're recognizing. I think we have a great vehicle in our JEA.com. I think it'd be great for them to be mentioned, featured somewhere on the website so people know and talk about all the community service that we're doing and the hours we provide. And I think that for their own peers, it'd be helpful if that were presented as well in the monthly newsletter. So I hope that we will take this as a real opportunity to showcase the great employees we have and to continue to advise and inform our community and our ratepayers that we do more than just work here. We, as you say, we play and we serve here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Board.
Thank you all.
Next, we have an integrated resource plan presentation from Mr. McEnroe. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
My name is Steve McEnroe, and I'm going to be presenting just a brief review of the integrated resource plan that we produced over the past year. Started in July 2011 and completed December 2012. First, I'd like to introduce the team we had working on it. John Corsi, William Goodrich, Melinda Fisher, and Mary Baker, if you just want to stand up. They did all the work. And Black and Beach was our consultant on the project. Okay, the integrated resource plan was needed because of the unprecedented levels of uncertainty that we have. Primarily the potential greenhouse gas regulations, the load growth uncertainty, and natural gas prices, all greatly fluctuating. Also, we have a big decision looming. We had expected it to be this year, which is the decision for our involvement in the Lee nuclear plant. That's been pushed back till 2014. And last month was up here presenting the 10-year site plan, which we're required to do by the Public Service Commission. Unlike the 10-year site plan, the PSC doesn't require us to do an IRP, but we do one when we're facing a big decision. The last one we did was in 2006. Okay. So we're trying to answer several large questions with the IRP, and we looked at a scenario approach where we defined 6 different scenarios of baseline, a recovery scenario where we thought the economy would, what happens if the economy gets a lot better and load growth goes up drastically, as in pre-2008. A no recovery scenario where we sort of let all the pessimists take control. A green economy, as the name would imply, where green regulations and greenhouse gas regulations were implemented. The plug-in hybrid vehicles became prominent, and then also a high carbon where it was like green economy but without the economic benefit, and then also a game changer scenario where we looked at growth of distributed generation and what that would do to our load. We developed this wheel early in the process, and this was intended to just remind us everything we're looking at and keep us focused in the middle there on rates, reliability, and ratings. And we just tried to balance this. Nobody's really expected to follow it. It's just meant to illustrate how complicated the process was. So the 3 components really that we look at in the IRP are demand, regulations, and supply. So first off, demand. This is what we had for each of our 6 scenarios for a 30-year period. Now, unlike the 10-year site plan, we had to go quite far out. So we went out beyond any of the published projections for natural gas prices. So it took a lot of effort from other groups in JEA. We had a lot of input from our environmental department, from our fuels department, Bud Parent and regulatory affairs people. So it really was a total company effort. This is the peak demand, and the energy looks pretty similar. On regulations, I'm sure you've seen things like this from our environmental people.
The big player here really is one without even a price tag on it, and that's the potential at the bottom for performance standards on greenhouse gas emissions. And that's referred to throughout this presentation as carbon or CO2 legislation. And that is really what drives us either towards the nuclear decision or allows us to keep in the fossil fuels, natural gas, and solid fuels. And then on supply, just a quick review of our existing capacity, where for base load, so what we turn on first, the power park, plant share, and north side units 1, 2, and 3. And then as a intermediate or possibly base, depending on the price of natural gas, it's been base recently, Brandy Branch. And then our peak units when we need the most power at Greenland, Northside, and Kennedy. And we also have a very renewable fleet. Most of this doesn't count towards our capacity. We're only allowed to take what's truly reliable, and that would be the energy from Trail Ridge and Girvan. So everything else is there as an energy only, but doesn't count towards capacity. But we continue to look for any renewable opportunities that are cost effective. And then these are the additions that we're already committed to. The first one is the return of the allotment that goes to Florida Power and Light right now from the power park. That's another 383 megawatts that'll be coming back in the 2017 to 2019 timeframe. Our math says 2019, FPL's math says 2017. We think our math is correct. MEAG, the Municipal Electric Authority of Georgia, we have a purchase power agreement with them for 200 megawatts from plants Vogel, 3 and 4. That construction project is going very well right now. They just poured first nuclear concrete last March, and we had a site visit up there in April, and it's looking great. And then in the future, so we're set up to 2020. There's no need for any additional capacity. In the future beyond that, we have our Lee option that we're considering and was one of the prime drivers for completing the IRP, as well as Greenland Energy Center, where we've built that with room for expansion and conversion of the existing unit to a combined cycle. Oh, and I should have mentioned you can stop me anytime with questions if you like. I've got plenty of time for this. And to bring this all together, this is just an overlay of some of the load growth forecasts along with our firm capacity. And out in the out years there is where you see the capacity gap, and that's where we would need additional generation capacity in order to continue to meet the needs of the community. And I'm going to skip over the whole analysis part because it is a short presentation. The executive summary for the report is included in your board package, and there's a good bit of detail in there, and it does get into some more information that I'm sort of glossing over for time's sake right now. And that should look like this in the board package. And we've got the complete report if anybody really, really wants to get into the math. Okay, so for added capacity, now this looks at each of our 6 scenarios and the size of the pie here, and I apologize for being so close to lunch. I hope nobody gets too hungry looking at all these pies. The no recovery is the little peanut in the middle. We just don't have to add much because the load growth will be able to support primarily what we already have. Green economy is the biggest because in addition to having a robust economy, also a lot of the existing solid fuel units would have to be replaced. So those get counted as added capacity because it's really replacing existing capacity. This is the look forward to 2041 as far as what would our total capacity look like. So existing plus what we added in the previous slide. What would our portfolio look like in 2041? And you can see the difference. Our 2012 pie is the first column, and then the first 3, those scenarios have very mild environmental regulations, so not a very strict greenhouse gas emission policy. In those cases, solid fuel remains a very important part of our fleet, and that's the orange color, the red-orange color. So you can see it's still very significant. Not a little bit of nuclear, but not much. You get over to the right-hand side, and it's nuclear and natural gas is really where the capacity comes from. And you can see it even more distinctly on the total energy side, where solid fuels, the orange is still very significant for the scenarios where we don't have a lot of greenhouse gas policies. But the nuclear and a little bit of natural gas really dominate the energy picture if substantial greenhouse gas emission policies come into effect. So we looked at across all these scenarios and tried to come up with trends and develop sort of signposts, so if something happens, we know what the impact of that is going to be on us. So sort of our signpost concept of, all right, what happens if, depending on what level of clean energy standard, CES, and carbon dioxide regulations implemented. And if it's high, then that means we're going to have more nuclear, forced retirement of solid fuel units, and the net impact to the system as far as extra costs because of all those additions and forced retirements, would be $10 billion net present value compared to the baseline scenario. In a more moderate scenario, the baseline, 110 to 220 megawatts of lead, not even the full complement. That's of our nuclear decision, and still leaning heavily in natural gas. And if there's no greenhouse gas standards, then really the push into nuclear won't happen, in which case natural gas is the primary source selected. Impact of natural gas price. Interestingly, the price of natural gas didn't really affect whether or not nuclear was selected. That was strictly dependent on the clean energy standard and the carbon dioxide regulation level. Natural gas price impacted when it was selected. So if the price was lower, it would be selected later. And if the price was higher, we would elect to go in the nuclear direction sooner. And then one of the big variables that we've talked about in a lot of the board meetings and we're constantly looking at is load growth. When we started, back at that load growth slide for the scenarios, right now, when 2012 came in, we were actually below the no recovery scenario. So we're tracking right now a little lower than our pessimistic case. If we have a big recovery, if the pre-2008 type growth levels come back, then we would be looking for more expansion into nuclear, perhaps, and also a lot more natural gas. But in the no recovery scenario, so the very low growth rate, and the growth rate in that one, we assume like a 3.5% decrease for 3 years, so essentially take 10, 12% off the top, and then a 0.75% growth rate after that. In the next 30 years, we added less than 1,000 megawatts of total capacity, and nuclear wasn't added until very late. 2039 was what the model showed. And then, so we looked at all the scenarios and came up with this as our general resource addition summary. Just going through this step by step, the approvals are in place for Vogtle, and we don't expect to make the lead decision until 2014, and the end of 2014 at that. So we're hoping to have some more refinement of what's going to happen with both load growth and carbon legislation by then. If carbon legislation came in, then that may impact the forced retirement of Northside 3. We don't see that right now, so Northside 3 retirement is an issue that we're looking at. We're doing a study to determine what the retirement date for Northside 3 would be, and that would really drive our potential first addition need, would be to replace that power. Renewables, we do continue to evaluate, as well as expand the energy efficiency and load control programs. And the frameworks are in place for both of those programs. We expect to return from the power park in 2019. And also, Bud and his people are continuing to engage with legislators on the environmental regulations and what that means to JEA and our fleet. So just to conclude, in most of the scenarios, we did have some resource addition of nuclear in the 2020 to 2025 timeframe, but it totally depends on the carbon legislation and also load growth. We have conversion capacity at Greenland. Transmission, both electric and natural gas, is very important for any additions that we make. Natural gas transmission is something we're looking at, as well as electric transmission from regional nuclear additions. And carbon emissions is probably the most important thing for us to look at on the horizon as far as pending legislation that will impact our fleet. And that is it. Any questions?
Just a comment, if I may. You mentioned low growth. I'm just looking at the executive summary here.
Okay.
And I assume this, you talk about this illustration is a projection of the future based on current conditions and includes a near-term sluggish economy with moderate recovery commencing after 5 years in 2017?
Yes.
And this is based on what now? The growth I'm talking about.
Right.
That's,
right.
Is that from you or is that from Lockett?
That was developed with our finance people. I should mention the finance. We had the finance
Sure,
people involved, and everybody. But we're trying to look at not necessarily an accurate prediction of the future, but just trying to come up with some sort of representation that we could use
To base your assumption, I assume
right.
that, but.
So that was sort of our consensus, expert opinion when we met in committee and kind of bantered around a bit, and drafts and resubmittal, and that was our best guess for what's a reasonable estimate for how long a sluggish economy would go and what kind of recovery would we see after that.
Okay. I assume you will review this on an annual basis?
Well, once we have this, we have a sort of a framework to look at things, and we would do independent studies to look at a specific issue, and then, because the last one time we did one of these was in 2006, so maybe in another 4 or 5 years, we'd do another full IRP. But between now and then, we do ad hoc studies and look at precise issues that we're trying to identify pros and cons on.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, and now Carl Hankin's going to present the IWRP for the water system.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good work.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Carl Hankin. I'm the manager of water, wastewater systems planning. And as Steve mentioned, I'm pleased today to present to you our update on our IWRP, similar to the electric IRP, although not quite as mature and robust. This is our first one that we've done, but it certainly gives us a structure and framework and foundational model for future work.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me first just review with you our the urban water cycle as it presently exists today. And I'll try to use this mouse as a cursor here so maybe you can see as a pointer. Up in the upper left-hand side, you can see rainfall, which is really our number one important feature to recharge to the Florida aquifer, our drinking water supply. And some of you may not know that in Duval County, we actually do not live in an area of recharge. So in other words, the rainfall that lands here does not make it to the Florida aquifer. And that's because you can see this brown layer here in the middle, this confining unit, this intermediate aquifer, actually stops water from moving into the Florida aquifer. But some miles to the west of us, water does move into the Florida aquifer through recharge from rainfall, and we benefit from that. We pump water from these wells that you can see here from the Florida Aquifer to the water treatment plants. They treat the water and then pump that water to our customers, who return a portion of that water back to us in the form of wastewater. We treat that, and a portion of it's treated as reclaimed water. We provide that back to our customers. A portion we don't return back to them goes to the St. Johns River. In the future, we're looking at a number of things as water becomes more scarce. One thing that we're currently looking at now, partially as a result of the IWRP and some earlier work, is the use of the intermediate aquifer as a low-yield water supply that doesn't impact the Florida aquifer. And I'll talk more about that in a bit. But we continue to look at other alternatives as well. For example, the potential to treat wastewater to drinking water standards and use that to recharge the Florida aquifer. Also, the possibility of using treated reclaimed water as a salinity barrier to push back saltwater intrusion. And we've got some water challenges facing us here at JEA. You know, aquifer levels have declined over the last 50 years throughout the St. Johns River Water Management District. And right here at home, if you look in the graph on the upper right, that's looking at wells, upper Floridan wells. In our area here in Duval County, the blue line represents the decline in the aquifer level since the 60s west of the St. Johns River. And you can see the red line is much steeper, much more rapid decline in the Florida aquifer east of the St. Johns River. And this decline in the aquifer is really the reason why the consumptive use permit that we have now is much more restrictive than it has been in the past. In fact, if you look at this, the lower graph on the right, the upper red line shows what our consumptive use permit was back through year 2010, 155 million gallons a day. And then you notice a very steep drop when we got a new permit. We lost 33 million gallons a day. And in 2011, our permit was 122 million gallons. And you can see sort of a stair-step climb upward each year of about 2 million gallons a day added to our limit up through year 2031. So in 20 years, we get back to what our permit was in 2010. So it's much more restrictive than it was in the past. There's also restrictive permit conditions that we have to follow. One of them that we're working with right now, planning, working with environmental services, Paul Steinbrecher, is working on the strategy of the prevention and recovery of minimum flows and levels in places many miles from JEA. Keystone Heights, the Lake Geneva MFL is one that we're working with the district and others on right now. And then also looking to the west over into St. Johns River or into Suwannee River Water Management District. They also have minimum flows and levels, and they're looking at those and how JEA might impact those MFLs over there. Similar to Steve's presentation, an important input to our water planning and our integrated water resource planning is our forecast. This is our most recent forecast of our total water demand through year 2031. The upper line, the middle line, the red dashed line is our consumptive use permit allocation. And then the bottom line is the light blue is the aquifer demand. That's what we project right now that we might be able to, or that we should be able to meet primarily through the use of conservation, continued conservation that we've been seeing from our customers, as well as potable offset reclaimed water. And it's complicated in that, you know, we've got a large service territory, obviously, 36 water treatment plants. These are the largest ones, the top 7 here, serving over 300,000 customers. And these 7 water treatment plants provide between 14 and 23 million gallons a day of water. They have the capacity to provide that. And what we have to do is we have to actually reduce how much we pump east of the river. And to make up for that, we will be increasing how much we pump west of the river, as well as relying on the conservation and reclaimed water program that we have. We'll also be adding 2 new water treatment plants, the one to the south at Greenland, at the Greenland Energy Center, or Greenland Water Treatment Plant, helps to reduce how much we pump our Deerwood facility, which has increasing chlorides. And our facility to the northwest water treatment plant will help add reliability in that area. So really today we're somewhat following. We've implemented work that we started back in 2007, and it's been paying off pretty well for us. Back in 2007, our first total water management plan had a focus on the south grid water quality concerns, saltwater intrusion. I should probably be clear that saltwater intrusion that we're experiencing there is not the traditional saltwater intrusion that other communities face, where the ocean is encroaching into the aquifer. Here we have what's considered relic water, old saltwater that's been trapped for millions of years when the earth was formed below the Floridan aquifer. And so, but nonetheless, it's an issue. The three recommendations that came out of this total water management plan were increased conservation, increased reclaimed water, and transfer water from west to east. And it's working. In the top left graph, you can see that through the conservation efforts, messaging, our tiered rate structure, and certainly the economy played into this, but our per person water use has gone down from 120 gallons per capita day down to less than 90 gallons per capita day. In the bottom left graph, our reclaimed water growth has been considerable, from 5 million gallons a day up to close to 15 million gallons a day. And the result on the right is that we've reduced water production from a high of nearly 136 MGD back in 2007 down closer to 112 today. Addressing the chlorides, the saltwater intrusion east of the river. This is our work that came out of our total water management plan efforts. The second river crossing. You see check marks on the stuff that's already been completed associated with the river crossing portion of it, and there's still construction going on to the east that'll complete this year, and then in operation in 2014. And I'm sure you probably saw some of the construction going on, and it's still going on. The most notable part was the river crossing itself, 3-foot diameter steel pipe, 60 feet below the river bottom. It was a big project, and that will help with the saltwater intrusion issues east of the river. It's about $55 million worth of work. It's a big commitment, really shows a big commitment by JEA to protect and sustain the Floridan aquifer east of the river. So the total water management plan we've implemented and underway, and it looks like we're in very good shape for the near term. But the IWRP will help us really look out 20, 30 years, similar to the electric IRP, to try to determine what happens under a variety of different scenarios. And in developing the IWRP, there's a number of comments. I'm not going to read these. Common sense objectives focused in on the customer, cost, and certainly the environmental stewardship and sustaining the resource. Features of the IWRP include some of these key interrelationships, and you look at the different alternative water supplies that we may need to employ in the future. We'll need to understand the different trade-offs between them and consider the risks and uncertainty. And here's the complicated wheel that Steve showed on the electric. It's complicated. There's a lot of moving parts. We've got to balance the demand of our customers with the environmental regulations, and look at the different supply alternatives, and sustaining the aquifer, and then focusing in on the center there of the rates, reliability, and ratings, that customer focus. This was early on in our work, and our consultant was CDM Smith. They developed this graphic. It's fairly simplified, but it helped to develop a very complicated Stella computer model that we're using today. And this just shows the interrelationship between the different water grids north and south of the river, and the different alternatives that we're looking at. in terms of alternative water supply and then demand-side management. And what you'll notice in the bottom right-hand corner of this is that you can see the deficiency on the south grid between what's our customers are demanding in year 2031, what we project they demand, and what our consumptive use permit will allow. And I'll talk about that deficit here in a moment. Where we are now with the project is we've completed this initial work. Report was completed in February, and we've got this foundational computer model. It's a very complicated model built in Stella that we plan to use every year with our new forecast to determine the best path forward. We're doing some additional model enhancements this year as well with CDM Smith, and we've got modeling training scheduled for next month. So here's some output from this model, and you can see on the left the north grid where water is plentiful. There's excess above the dashed line there, above and beyond what the customers north of the river will need. So we move that over to the right side of the graphic here to the south grid, and that's shown in green. So that's through those river crossings. But even then, when we run the model, you notice there's appears to be a deficit beginning about 2022, not too different from the electric IRP. And so what we did when we looked at all the different alternatives that are available to us is to eliminate that deficit. The low-cost one right now appears to be the use of the intermediate aquifer system. So we have a project now underway to drill a test well and to determine the feasibility of actually moving forward with developing that supply. So next steps, we're as I mentioned, we've got some enhancements that our consultant is making to the model and model training schedule, so we'll complete that. We plan to load our new forecast each year into this model and run that to determine when and where water deficits may occur and how much. We'll begin running different variety of scenarios, much like the electric IRP, to see what are the different things that might happen under high growth scenarios and so forth. Determine the best solution from those runs. We work the output from those into our master plan and into our capital improvement plan, and also into our financial planning models. And then we also plan to create a document every 5 years approximately. Any questions or comments?
We have about 65,000 septic tanks in this area. Is this part of your planning process to eliminate some of those?
It really isn't. This is more directed at water supply.
Potable water supply.
Potable water supply.
But that is an issue that we're going to have.
It is an issue. The problem, and it's a little bit complicated, but developers put in those septic tanks, as you know. They also put in the water and wastewater systems that dedicate to JEA. Those septic tanks, the developer saves money when they put in those septic tanks, and it's unfortunate they continue to keep putting them in. It becomes really an issue for the city. The city's in the past has worked to help fund taking some of those septic tanks out of service, and JEA has always been very much a partner in taking that additional wastewater. For something like this, it's probably not something that we would plug in here other than in our wastewater forecast, looking at over time number of septic tanks being phased out, what that'll do to increased wastewater load.
I'm sure it will impact it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Thank you, sir, for
Okay,
your
thank you.
report. We'll move next into other new business. Do we have any new business to come before the board? Next, we have the items of old business. Hearing none, we'll move on to our reports. Do we have a report coming from our CEO, Mr. McElroy?
Just very briefly, Madam Chair,
Certainly.
I wanted to thank the last two presenters. It certainly demonstrated the complexity of our resource management and selection, and intentionally had them tee those two presentations up as a forerunner to our work next month in the strategic planning workshop, where we'll be addressing strategic change management, confronting reality, strategic objectives, and really looking at our enterprise strategic initiatives. And we continue to work at a staff level and are evolving to 3 or 4 major themes. Certainly, we've talked and are starting to show some of the fruits of the labor of the initiatives on customer satisfaction, but clearly winning customer loyalty, continuing to be committed to operational excellence, attracting unbeatable talent, and embracing social responsibility and sustainability. So those are 3 or 4 items that we'll sort of try to incorporate in the discussions next month with the board in our strategic planning process. I wanted to just also take a brief moment, and talk about our community involvement. We had a terrifically successful launch, a grand opening of the JEA Power Play and Science Theater at Mosh. And we did that last couple weeks ago. We had a good turnout, and it is just fantastic. It's the theater itself is just full of fun, scientific. I got a big kick out of it, and I'm sure the team out there will share that with you. But, you know, we touch the lives of 36,000 students every year through the Science Theater, and it clearly is the JEA Science Theater in terms of having children understand science, engage them early, from the early grades up to high school. So it's a great opportunity, and we're proud with that association with Mosh. We'll be at Mosh later this afternoon with the senior leadership team and a number of our senior executives participating in RACE. Are We So Different? And we look forward to that. It'll be a 3-hour session. JEA is a proud sponsor of, along with the city, we're participating in the momentum behind One Spark. We are having a carbon-free zone. All electricity supporting the One Spark activities through the city will be generated with non-carbon-based fuels, solar or wind. And so we're excited about that. We have the lineman competition we talked about. JEA will be working on Earth Day, participating in the Earth Day, which is Thursday, April 27th. And to that effect, I have provided each board member with a JEA Earth Day t-shirt, so wear that proudly. And finally, in June 12th and 13th, we will have 50 JEA leaders plus volunteers participating with the Habijacks build-out that week. So we're really excited about the next couple of months here in terms of the activities we have.
Thank you, sir. We will be very busy and look forward to seeing each of you. I have no chair's report. Any closing considerations, any announcements? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. 11 on the dot.